Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my nutrition series. So previously we've already covered protein and what that is, carbohydrates and what that is, and the links to those two videos are in the description to this video. So if you want to check those out after you've watched this video, then that will complete the series. So today obviously we're talking about fat. I'm going to talk about what fat is, different types of fats, what to include within your diet, what to avoid with fats, and the best choices in my opinion. Again, it all differs depending on different people's tastes, but let's get into it. So fats are known as triglycerides, and they are esters of 3 fatty acid chains and the alcohol glycerol. So an oil is a fat with a short or unsaturated fatty acid chains that is liquid at room temperature. A fat is actually a solid at room temperature, so think of like coconut oil, butter, lard, things like that. And then a lipid, in the general terms, lipid is not necessarily a triglyceride, it's a molecule of fat. So fat is actually an essential nutrient to the human body, i.e. if you weren't to have it, then you would most likely die due to its structural and metabolic functions within the body. It helps with a healthy hormone production and also healthy cells within the body. That's a very basic term. So there's 2 different types of essential fatty acids for the body. One of them is alpha linolenic acid, which is also omega-3s, and the second one is linolenic acid, which is omega-6s. Having a good balance of both of these within your diet makes, again, it more of an optimal function for the human body. Having too much of one or the other can cause problems, especially if your ratio of omega-6s is much higher than omega-3s. It can actually cause quite a pro-inflammatory response in the body, and so it's not great. So you want to try and get a balance of high omega-3s to omega-6s, and again there's omega-9s as well. So having a wide spectrum of your fat choices will actually help to make sure you tick all the boxes of these essential fatty acids. One fat to avoid is actually manufactured trans fats, but I'll get onto what they are later on in the video, so hold fire for now on those. Okay, so we're going to actually look then into how fats are broken down and how they're actually turned into energy, which is ideally what they are. So obviously fat is a slower release form of energy compared to carbohydrates and protein, and it's broken down in the pancreas by enzymes called lipases. Once it's broken down and used by the body, it's then either used as energy or stored. Now, fat is, as I said, a slow release form of energy because it takes a longer time than carbohydrates to break down within the pancreas, and therefore it will be a slower stream of energy for the body to use. So fats are broken down in the healthy body. So someone that's actually healthy is broken down in the healthy body to release glycerol and fatty acids. Glycerol in itself can be converted in the liver to glucose, which is obviously a quicker source of energy. So don't think that just because you're eating a high-fat diet, generally you are reducing the amount of glucose within your system because you're not having carbohydrates. That's not strictly true. So as I said, like once fats are broken down within the pancreas, then they release glycerol, and glycerol in itself is converted to glucose within the liver and then used as a quicker form of energy. So fats can be broken down and then turned into a quick source of energy within the liver. But generally they're broken down in the pancreas by enzymes called lipases and then turned into energy in a slower format than what happens in the liver with carbohydrates and glucose. So what are healthy forms of fat to include within your diet? Again, a wide spectrum of fats is the best way to do it. You can get them through many different forms. You've obviously got oils, as we talked about before. Olive oil is a really good one to include on like vegetables and salads, but not really good to cook with. That's due to having quite a high smoke point, which basically means that when you cook with olive oil, it can turn again into when you cook with olive oil, it makes it it sort of desensitizes good fats within the olive oil and makes it more pro-inflammatory. So it gets rid of a lot of the omega-3s and it just leaves the omega-6s. So that when you then eat the olive oil after it's been cooked at a high temperature, it then becomes more of a pro-inflammatory response within the body due to reducing HDL and increasing LDL. So this is really good to have on, as I said, salads, and even like if you cook up vegetables, to put it on afterwards. And you're better off using a solid fat like coconut oil or butter to cook with, because they have a lower smoke point, which means that the nutrients within the fat, when you cook with them, are kept intact. So use olive oil for dressings and cook with fats like coconut oils and butters, ghee and stuff like that as well, which is clarified butter, really good. Avocado oil is also another good one to use. Fats generally, they're quite high in calories, so there's 9 calories per gram of fat. So if you were to have like a tablespoon of olive oil and cook with that, then you're looking at a pretty high amount of fats. You're looking at about 200 calories worth of fat. It doesn't contain any carbohydrates, it doesn't contain any protein, so it's pretty much pure fat. So having things like Fry Light, which is a 1 calorie spray, if you're frying food, can be a lifesaver, because obviously every spray is only 1 calorie. So if you use 10 sprays within your evening meal of a stir fry, you're actually only having 10 calories when compared to the same amount of olive oil, or rather coconut oil or butter if you're frying, which will come out at about 200 calories. So always measure, like we talked about before, whatever you're cooking with. If you're putting a tablespoon of fat to cook with, that's still included in your daily calories. Don't ignore it, put it in, and make sure that you're balancing the amount of calories that you're eating in accordance to your goals. Okay, so Fry Light's a really good way to reduce the amount of calories that you're containing from your fats and allow you to actually then eat more fats within your diet. Things like eggs as well. Now, eggs obviously contain proteins, but they also contain fat. So each egg contains about 5 to 6 grams of fat, depending on the size of the egg. So the yolk contains the majority of the fats. Really good amount of vitamins and minerals within an egg yolk as well. So if you're just removing the egg yolks and not eating them because you just want protein, then you're missing out on quite a high amount of nutrients and vitamins within that. So eat the yolks, just again balance the calories out to make sure that you're not overeating on calories just by eating higher on fats. Fatty fish and meat, so I've got sardines here. So in a can of sardines you're looking at about 11 grams of fat, which isn't too high. You know, it's 200 calories per can, and it's pretty much a fat and protein based food, same as most fatty cuts of meat like steaks, beef steaks that is, lamb, very high cuts of much higher fatty cut of meat, and some pork based as well, and obviously then you've got turkey legs, chicken legs, salmon, mackerel. They're all very high fatty protein based foods. So you've got foods which contain both a mixture of proteins and fats, which, as we said, are cuttier fats of what we call protein. And again, if you look at the protein video, I've talked about them within there. So again, read the labels, make sure you know what's going in your food. But generally, you're looking at about between 11 and 20 grams of fat per cut of meat, again, dependent upon size, in salmon, mackerel, fillet steak, lamb steaks, a pork chop, and then pure fats, like we talked about before, are the things like the olive oil, coconut oil, butters and ghees. They don't contain nearly any carbohydrates or protein. They're just pretty much fat sources. We then go on to like the mixture of proteins and carbohydrates based foods. So again, coconut milk, very, very high saturated fats, but that is a really good dense source of testosterone boosting fat. So a lot of saturated fat will boost testosterone. So if you're doing weight training, this is a good thing. Obviously not eating too much of it. As with anything, moderation is key, but a really good source is coconut milk. So if you're struggling to put on size and muscle, coconut milk is a very dense calorie, easy to get down you, won't bloat you out or make you feel full food. So coconut milk is a really good source of fats, and you're looking at per 100 milliliters about 17 grams of fat and only about 2 grams of carbohydrates. Now if you get a low fat version of coconut milk, then generally the carbs will be higher and obviously the fats will be lower. So again, read the labels, and it's dependent upon how many calories you can eat per day as to what your choices are with regards to the foods that you eat. You've also got things like nuts and dark chocolate. So I'm sure like girls are paying close attention now to what I'm saying with regards to holding a bar of dark chocolate. Obviously you can see as well it's 90% dark chocolate. 70% and above generally is my guidelines for dark chocolate as a fat source, but the lower the percentage goes, the higher the carbohydrates, so the higher the amount of sugars within the bar as well. So be aware that with the chocolate that you're eating, you want as higher cocoa mass as possible within the bar. The closer to 100% the better, because the lower the amount of sugar and carbohydrates are within the bar itself. But again, if you've got macros set for the day, proteins, carbohydrates and fats, and you can include some dark chocolate within there, then it's a really good fat source. So that's why you cook with this instead of actual coconut oil or butter or ghee, because it allows you to eat things like this. Now we see how we balance out our day of food with our fats. You've also got things like avocados as well, which are a really good source of fats, and again, along with the food that include high fats, you generally get a lot of vitamins and minerals within them as well. So things like I said, like egg yolks, avocados, the salmon, mackerel, the sardines and the fatty cuts of beef, you get a lot of vitamins, minerals and nutrients within that as well. So your micronutrients are ticked off when you eat a higher fatty food. Again, just make sure you read things, so put it into MyFitnessPal. If you don't know how to track your food, I've got a video on how to track it via MyFitnessPal. Again, I'll put it in the link in the description below. But generally, foods that are higher in fats are higher in calories, because each gram of fat contains 9 calories, whereas proteins and carbs, 1 gram of each of those contains only 4 calories. So you can see that fat is actually over double the amount that those two hold, and it's very easy to get calories in liquid format. Okay, or if you're cooking with a tablespoon of butter, before you know it, that's 200 extra calories put into your meal, and you haven't actually eaten anything in excess. So fats are an extremely good way to go or higher fats, should I say, within a diet, are an extremely good way to go if you're trying to put size on. Peanut butter, almond butter, as I said, adding olive oil into protein shakes sounds disgusting, but it's an easy way to get calories in. The opposite will be true if you're trying to lose weight. Now, people will always talk about a high fat diet when compared to a high carb diet. Research has actually shown that it doesn't matter whether you're on a high carb diet or a low carb diet. When protein is in check and calories are equal, you'll lose weight or body fat at the same rate. So you can eat a high fat diet, low carb diet, or you can eat a high carb diet, low fat diet. As long as calories are in check and you're actually still in a deficit in either of those diets, then you'll still lose body fat. Okay, now if you were to overeat your calories, not eat any carbs, but eat proteins and fats and still overeat your calories each day, you will not lose weight. Okay, does not matter whether you've reduced carbs or not, you're in a calorie surplus, so a surplus of calories, you're eating too much for the amount that you're burning off, and therefore you will not lose any more weight. So personal preference comes down to how you set your diet up. I generally suggest that you take your daily amount of calories and then have your fat set between 20 and 25%. For example, if you're on 2,000 calories a day, I would take 500 calories as your fats, okay? And then I would do 500 calories divided by 9, and that would give you the amount of grams that you would have for your fats each day. Obviously, your protein would be 1 gram per pound of body weight, and then the rest of the remaining calories there you would have set of as your carbs. So you divide the remaining calories by 4 and therefore get your carbs. I'll do a completely separate video on this, on how to set your macros, but If you take your fats and put them at between 20 and 25%, this will give you a substantial amount of fat to eat each day and ensure that you are getting optimal cell functioning, optimal hormone functioning within your diet. It also gives a good variety of food without you overloading on either carbs or overloading on either fats. Again, it comes down to personal preference. In my carb video, I did say that the higher you are in weight, the more weight that you carry in body fat, the less carbs you eat, and the higher your fats will go, purely because you already have a very easy amount of energy for the body to tap into with the body fat sitting around you, that you don't need to eat extra carbohydrates to provide quick energy. If you're already lean and you're working out lots, then you can get away with eating more carbs without causing problems like insulin resistance. And you can just moderate your fats. If you like to eat higher fats, you're already lean, rather than carbohydrates, then that's cool. You can eat a higher fat-based diet. You just got to make sure that your protein is in check and that you're getting enough carbs in to provide optimal cell functioning and to make sure that you're still energized within the day. It also makes life easier if you balance out both carbs and fats when you go out for meals in restaurants, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to cook your food with fats unless you ask them not to. So make sure that you're tracking and you are understanding exactly what you're eating each and every day. Now, I did say we're going to talk about trans fats quickly, because they are demonized within like the fitness industry, and for good reason. Now, trans fats are when you take an unsaturated fat like vegetable oil, things like palm oil, sesame seed oil, and general vegetable oils, and then they are hydrogenated and turned into a trans fat. So they go from a double bond to a trans bond, 3 bond, and then it becomes a trans fat. These are bad because when you eat them, it raises the levels of LDL, which is bad cholesterol, within your blood, and lowers the level of HDL, good cholesterol, in your blood. This in turn will promote systemic inflammation. Now, systemic inflammation is obviously a bad thing, because you've raised bad cholesterol, you've lowered good cholesterol, and when you do that and the body is systemically inflamed, it causes havoc internally. So it increases your rate of heart disease and heart attacks. It causes problems with other organs, and it also means that your energy production and how you feel is quite bad. You feel quite low in energy, you feel quite brain foggy, and generally you're in a bad place. It also obviously affects how energy is absorbed by your cells, and how then you convert energy or convert the food that you eat into energy. So if you eat a lot of foods which are high in trans fats, here's a prime example: mayonnaise, okay, predominantly fats, but again it's made with 78% of rapeseed oil, and the rest of it is from water, pasteurized free-range eggs, egg yolks, which is 7.9% of what's in it, spirit vinegar, salt, sugar, sunflower oil, lemon juice concentrate, and then antioxidants. Okay, so if you were to constantly eat foods which contain quite high trans fats, same as when you're eating highly processed foods like pastries, pizzas, some burgers that they'll make in fast food restaurants, the fats that they cook, things like fish and chips and fries in restaurants, they're all cooked in vegetable oils, so you're going to be consuming a high amount of systemically inflammation promoting fats within your diet. Then you're not going to be in a good place. Okay, as I said, it increases your bad cholesterol within your blood, and it increases your chances of things like heart attack and coronary heart disease. So reduce the amount of trans fats within your diet. Eat the healthier fats like avocados, egg yolks, fatty cuts of meat and fish, olive oils as a dressing, cooked with coconut oil, butters and ghees, and avoid trans fats or trans fat containing foods, like we said, processed foods like muffins, cakes, biscuits, chocolates outside of the really high quality dark chocolate. They'll all contain high amounts of trans fats. If you're constantly eating these things, it may not get you at this moment in time, but gradually over time, as you get older and older, you'll probably start to feel the effects of eating those bad foods. So always read labels, Always make sure you know how many calories you can consume while still reaching your goals, and then play around with what foods work best for you. Me telling you what to eat is not going to help you in any way, shape or form, because everyone is different and everyone adapts differently to different diets. So work out what works for you and then stick with that. Again, I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, then please feel free to ask me. That will complete our series on nutrition. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll speak soon.